Hey guys, I don't know exactly what happened there, but I don't know if my internet connection was lost, but I am going to have to add everything that I'm using back to StreamYard. So just bear with me for just a moment while I do this. But I'll start talking a little bit about I'm going to thank some people and then we'll kind of go into it. I don't know why StreamYard does this sometimes, but I think Everett has been having some issues with StreamYard too. So, anyways, I wanted to thank some people. Obviously, Everett at Ohio for Freedom and Nathan, who was my guest last week, and Vanessa Johnson, who has been so helpful, and our prayer team that meets on Saturdays, and Mr. Who, and the Valor Christian College students, and Spencer Smith, who is a podcaster that I just found out about, and Protestia, which I had not heard of before, or Spencer Smith. So people had sent it to me like, have you seen this? Check this out. So sorry guys, as you can tell, I'm stalling a little bit. I don't have the "we'll be right back" music. I want to make sure that I have everything on here that I need. So I'm gonna try to take a look at the chat and try to talk to you guys for just a second. Oh, I didn't mean for that to pop up yet, you guys. Um, I'm I'm just adding things right now to like I said, because when I lost connection, I lost everything that I'm presenting tonight, and it's a lot of stuff. So if you see it pop up, then just ignore it till I talk about it. Okay. So, um, hey Vanessa, hey Paula, hey Raphael. Again, thank you guys for being patient with me while I add all of this stuff back. If you just tuned in, I do I need that one? I don't think. Yeah, I do. Um, when I lost connection and um, everything kind of went away that I had already decided to have in there. So I think I can probably get started in just a second, and I'll just have to add everything when I'm getting ready to talk about it, so I don't have to keep going back and forth. So I've done my thank yous, and I wanted to just give actually one thing and then say something else, and then we'll get into the episode. So I got an email a couple weeks ago from a gentleman, and he goes by the name Brother Ski, and he is a part of this street mission in Columbus. And he emailed me and said, "Hey, I don't know if this is cool or not cool, but I wanted to send this to you." And they do a street mission there in I don't know if I'm not supposed to be presenting this information tonight, but I have lost my connection now 3 times. So, Brother Ski, anyways, sent me this email. He does a street mission in Columbus, Ohio, and they help feed the homeless. They share the Lord and with the people that are there. And I told him that I would share the organization that he works with, and it's called Columbus Relief. This is the page. I'm not going to play the full video, but as you can see, they don't really have a lot of subscribers, but the video is less than 8 minutes long. If you can go take a look at that, and you can either donate to help, or you can actually volunteer with them. And it seems like it is a great organization. He's been working with them. You'll actually see him if you watch the video. I also wanted to thank everyone that donates to help keep the podcast going. There are some links if you decide that you want to donate and help out Mega Maniacs. But I also wanted to say, well, now it went super dark in here, that Everett, my brother Everett at Ohio for Freedom, he is now doing podcasting full time. And I just wanted to say, if you want to give, please give to him, and help out his channel. And we will all support each other as much as we can, because he also, he does a lot of supporting of other podcasters. So now to why we are all here. So last week, obviously, we had the episode with Nathan that we recorded on Monday, and Everett actually produced that episode and had it out Tuesday evening for everyone to see. And talking about, obviously, the black mold issue at Valor Christian College in the dorms. And Nathan is, a whistleblower. On last week, Everett and I both got letters from World Harvest Church telling us that we were not authorized to be there. Nathan did not get a letter, but we believe that was really because he had moved recently, and there was not really a record that World Harvest or Valor Christian College could find for him. So and that's going to come back up here in a little bit when I get into that. So tonight we're going to share new black mold evidence, outrageous financial motives, hypocrisy in leadership, and also a mother's urgent plea. And that is going to be, her name is Z. She is going to come on towards the end of the program and not only share a little bit of her backstory, just to give you guys some context, but also a plea to parents and these ministers that continue to send kids to Valor Christian College, knowing that there are all of these issues that exist with the leadership and with the dorms and all of these other things. So, and also coming up in the next week or 2 weeks, I am interviewing a former Word of Faith prosperity gospel preacher that has come out of the mindset of this, I call it more diabolical or cult-like, when you really start investigating it. And also a former parishioner of World Harvest Church that just left in early June. So if you could be shocked any more than you already are, I think that you will be. So now on to sharing, and hopefully I don't lose you guys again. I am going to go in talking about Nathan and this past weekend. And I'm gonna start adding my images again, and hopefully like I said, don't lose you guys. So last week, Nathan, who was my guest on last Tuesday's program, he received this email, and I sort of messed with the last name, so it wasn't obvious, and unless you work there, go to school there, you're not going to necessarily know who this is. But the email that he received, it says, "Hi, Nathan, I have a check here in Valor admin ready for you for pickup. Let me know when you would like to stop by to pick it up or if you would like for it to be mailed." And I don't know if she was aware what was going to happen after this, but this was the email that he received. So he did, in fact, go to pick up his check. And when he got there, he was sort of getting the runaround of, "Oh, no one's in the admin office. They've already left for the day. And we think your check is over here. And oh, nope, your check is over there. And just wait over here and wait over there." And after all of this waiting, this happens, and I'm going to kind of blow it up a little bit. This is Nathan in the cutoff shirt or the tank top, but this car, I can't see what the first name, but it says asset protection. And this asset protection is security that was hired by World Harvest Church for Dominion Camp meeting. But when this cop or security guard, whatever he was, approached Nathan, he was very agitated. And these are Nathan's words, very agitated. He was trying to bully and intimidate Nathan, saying, "You can't be here. You're not allowed to be here," even though he received that email that he needed to come over there and pick up the check. And this officer or security guard then pulls out his cell phone, okay, starts filming him, even though it appeared from Nathan's words that this officer had a body cam on. So why would you need to film somebody on your phone unless you're going to send it back to someone to maybe impress them or give them information that you've been requested to get? Because this officer or security guard was asking where Nathan lived, all of his information. And I believe that was one of the reasons, that because they wanted to try to send him a letter that he was not allowed on the property. But they did not arrest him. But he was told that he was not allowed there, just like Everett and I were. So that is the one of the first things that I wanted to talk to you guys about tonight. Raphael said, "A new lawsuit." I don't know, man. Maybe. So again, because I've lost all my assets, I've got to start pulling them up as I'm talking to talking about these topics. And Dina said WHU was trying to set him up. I believe so. I just don't know who was involved and who wasn't involved, because sometimes everyone is involved and you're not aware, but sometimes you're just kind of the person they tell to say this, that, or the other, but you don't really understand what is going to happen after the fact. So now let me bring up some other things here. I'm just going to remove these other ones because I don't know if I have too many and it's causing my StreamYard to stop working. But these are now some WhatsApp messages. So we're going to go into the black mold updates and the students that possibly are might be dying for diplomas because they are being exposed to this black mold. And my understanding was that a remediation company was supposed to come there today to do an inspection. And based on some things that I have heard, I cannot share from whom, but the administration at Valor Christian College is planning on only showing certain areas to the remediation company for inspection. I don't know if that's going to fly or not, but the entire place needs to be inspected, not just the areas that they pick and choose. I do not know who the remediation company is as of right now. I was hoping to have that information. I do not know if it's a company that is going to be completely unbiased and has no ties to World Harvest Church or Valor Christian College. But I do believe there will be additional inspections and investigations, hopefully by the health department and other remediation companies that are not hired by World Harvest Church or Valor Christian College. So this first WhatsApp message, the kids at the school have this summer chat, as you can see, and someone shared this with me. And I have a couple of these messages, but it says, McKenna said it best. It's not only in the shower talking about the black mold, but the windows, the carpet, and the vents. There's no telling what's behind the walls. This is no longer a small issue to spray bleach on and clean. This is something that's more infested. This is not going to get to the deep-rooted issue, and it does need to be handled professionally. Again, my love, bleach is not for mold, just research. And that is correct. And these messages were happening at the end of last week. So there's another WhatsApp message from that text string. Let me pull that up now. So, and I'm making it bigger, not only for y'all, but for me. So then it looks like Natalia responds to that message and says, dang, y'all, been trying to say this for a minute. There's been mold here since my daddy came here around 2012. It's disgusting. Perry is right. You can't clean mold by yourself. Now, mildew you can with a certain product, but mildew is also a type of mold. Now, we know mold grows in damp conditions, so a shower would be perfect. Now, y'all, logically, if someone showers constantly, then let water sit for years, it's going to over time produce mold because there isn't proper ventilation inside of the bathrooms. I think one solution would be putting in fans. And then, and I have a comment about that because I do know some laws with that. And then Lanisha, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I've been using the green bathroom since I've got here, and I never knew that there was mold where I was showering. Mold can possibly make people sick or possibly even death. I wish they could make a whole dorm because, and then the message is cut off. And of course, I only am getting some messages. So I know one of these laws for bathrooms specifically because when I sold one of my houses and when I lived in Gahanna, Ohio, I had an older home. It was built probably in the 70s, but the upstairs bathroom that had a bath and a shower, it did not have any windows. And when I hired this real estate agent, the fan that was in that bathroom was not working. And there were definitely some mildew issues, and I found out that was the reason. So there is a law that you have to either have a window in the bathroom or you have to have a properly working fan because there has to be ventilation in these bathrooms to prevent some of these issues like black mold. And I don't know how long this has been a thing at Valor, but we have reports saying 2015, 2016. Now we have someone saying they were complaining about it in 2012. So how far back do these mold issues actually go? So now I'm going to show you a couple of videos that were taken from last Thursday or Friday. And this would be from Valor students. So this is going to be the first one that they took in one of the bathrooms. Now, obviously, mildew can happen on shower curtains. This is what would be considered the green bathroom, like you guys just heard. But that's gross. Like, Valor, go buy some new shower curtains if this is what they look like. I mean, what is the problem? This is, I don't know if that's black mold or just mildew, but you're going to see in this other video, and you've seen from the pictures that we showed you last week, that there's black mold behind the tiles. There's black mold that's coming through the walls, on the ceilings, in the vents. I mean, it seems to be like it's absolutely everywhere. And when you get an inspection and a remediation company comes in, they're not just looking at little tiny things. They have to get into the drywall and get behind that and see how deep and how infested. Not as good, y'all. I keep losing a connection, but at least I didn't take time to add everything back to the studio again. So hopefully that doesn't keep happening. But and I feel like I've got good Wi-Fi. I don't know what's going on over here. So now let me show another video that was taken on the same day. And this is so typically, if you replace caulking, which it looks like some of that caulking isn't very old. I managed hotels and worked for a property management company for several years. And so I not only hired maintenance people, but I had to learn how to do maintenance myself, because there were times that I didn't have anyone on staff and I couldn't not sell rooms because, it needed to be recalked, or, something small was wrong. So I would have to learn how to fix it so I could sell those rooms. And there is a proper way of caulking, especially in bathrooms. And you don't just caulk over black mold or mildew. You have to get it out and remove it, and then you start fresh. Not taking, the easy way out and not caring if there is black mold growing everywhere. So now I'm going to show you a picture, and I want you to remember this picture, because I'm going to, after this, we talked um, in last week's episode about showing symptoms and long-term symptoms of black mold exposure. And I didn't actually show those. And so I'm going to do that tonight. So I'm going to blow this up so you can see. But if you can see here, I'm dragging my mouse over it. I don't know if y'all can see that, but she's got a rash, okay? And or bumps, a rash, what it would that's what it appears to look like to me. So I am now going to pull up my handy dandy slides. I'm so glad I I at least saved these things, even though I got to pull them back up. So, common symptoms of black mold exposure: chronic coughing or sneezing, nasal congestion or sinusitis, throat irritation, shortness of breath or wheezing, asthma flare ups, runny nose and itchy eyes, skin rashes or hives, watery red eyes, headaches or migraines, dizziness, lightheadedness, memory issues, brain fog, fatigue, chronic tiredness, mood swings, anxiety, depression, frequent colds or infections, aches and pains, sensitivity to light, and nausea and vomiting. But the nausea and vomiting is very rare. And I'm sharing that because I know just from working at World Harvest Church that it was very much frowned upon to miss work and for students to miss work study, miss church, miss class. Okay, now you could miss class, but you definitely could not miss your work study obligation or your volunteer obligation. But um, oftentimes, if people were complaining of these kinds of symptoms, they would be sort of made fun of, like, toughen up. You just need to get to work, or some of it, like the brain fog and the anxiety and depression. It would be, spiritualized, like you're under demonic attack and we need to pray against these things. Well, or you could actually just be having exposure to black mold and you don't know it. So now I want to share the long-term effects, the long-term side effects of black mold exposure. Long-term asthma, bronchitis, increased risk of lung infections, permanent lung damage, memory loss, depression, anxiety, coordination problems, nerve pain, or numbness, and specific long-term effects in children and young adults. Slowed cognitive development, weakened immune system, increased risk of autoimmune diseases. Vulnerable groups most at risk: people with asthma or allergies, those with weakened immune systems, children, teens, young adults, and people with chronic illnesses. And I thought that that was very noteworthy as well, because the students and the summer interns that live in those dorms are most certainly in those classifications. And who knows how long this has been going on, and who knows the effects of these things, even if you're not symptomatic when you are at Valor Christian College. You might be. It might be time for a new internet company. I don't know what's going on today. So I want to just share a some scriptures now for this specifically, and it's warning of fame and fortune while neglecting what you have, and hoping. Nope, not that one. Here it is. It's warning against craving fame and fortune while neglecting what you have. And this is not only pertinent, in my opinion, to this specifically, but it's pertinent when we start getting to some other topics here in a minute, where Rod's praying for private jets for people, okay? Because he's not only been entrusted with this. I struggle to call it a church, you guys. Okay, so he's been entrusted with this cult that maybe at one time was a church. Okay, I don't know. I wasn't there at that point in time, but it seems like the theology has sort of always been the same, and maybe it's just more blatant these days. But he's specifically been entrusted with young people that have come to Harvest Preparatory School and Valor Christian College because they want to be a part of this ministry. They think that they're going to get this great Christian education, and the parents and these kids find out it is. Okay, well, let me add my slide back again. So Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. Proverbs 27:23-24. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds, for riches do not endure forever. And 1 Timothy 6:6-8. But godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought I appreciate y'all bearing with me here. I'm not sure what's going on, but godliness without contentment is great gain. We brought nothing into the world and we can take nothing out of it. And all of this attention on material things. How much money do we have? How many jets do we have? How many mansions do we have? How many bank accounts do we have? All of these things that are propped up in this ministry, if you want to call it that, and nobody cares about these souls. No one cares about compassion and love and making sure that these kids are getting a good education and being stewarded correctly and being discipled correctly. Uh, at least the people in leadership that are making the decisions, they care about the money and they care about getting as many people butts in the seats, if you will, so they can get your money. They want you to send your kids to school there. They want you to send your kids to their college. And again, it's for nothing but the money. So let's see how many times my internet goes out and this quits when I'm talking about the cost of greed. So I wasn't initially going to show this, but I thought that it very much fit into what we were talking about. And this is some information that actually Everett at Ohio for Freedom sent to me quite some time ago. And I'm going to pull up two things now. But the first one is, this is a lien on the building of World Harvest Church. And this was in 2021. And I'm going to turn the pages here. So, and I'm not going to be able to see it very well, but this was as of December 2018, they had a lien on World Harvest Church for over $3 million. Okay. And there, it looks like $3,320,000. And this says 2018. And then, but this information is, this was a modification that was made the 29th day of June, 2021, with World Harvest Church. And I'm going to continue to show a little bit more of this because there is a lot of interest that goes on this. So there's Rod's signature. I think that was his actual signature and not the signature machine. And the interest that is actually on this this lien on the building, this is what it's going to equate to. So you take that 3,900,000. Okay, the interest rate was 4.75%. The interest every year is going to be $185,250. And as you can see there at the bottom, the balance continues to go up. So your ending balance is over almost $7 million. And that might be one of the reasons that Rod is pushing for everybody to send him his money these days, because they've got a lot of debt. And if Rod is so blessed Why is WHC buried in debt? They do not reinvest in the staff. They do not reinvest in the students. They obviously do not reinvest in the dorms. The only reinvestment is to the Parsleys. And at some point, some things in World Harvest Church get refurbished, like the seats and some of the carpet. But they're not reinvesting any of this money to actually make the organization better, to make it better and more comfortable for these students that are coming in and being sent in from all of these CHN churches. And not only that, but they are continuing to fire staff members because they're in a financial hardship. Okay, well, I can see why. You've got a over $3 million lien, which, you know, Rod has talked about on several occasions about not being in debt and not being a slave to the world system. And I've played some of those videos, but that's exactly what he's doing. He is the king of hypocrites. And if you, a lot of you probably did see the clip that I pulled from the last night of Dominion Camp meeting. I'm getting ready to play that. And then right after that, I'm going to bring Z on, who is a parent of a Valor student. And she's going to talk about some of her experiences. But Rod's praying for a private jet for Cy Younger, who was the speaker that night. Now, I don't know if Cy was in on this. I don't know who this guy is, so I'm not saying anything about him. I don't know if he was involved in these charades that were going on Sunday night. But Rod, instead of praying for private jets for people, why don't you take care of the people that you already have? Okay, these I'm infuriated about these dorms and how people are being treated. And I try to keep myself as calm as possible, but I feel like I need to be doing more. I try to make more phone calls. I try to send more emails. I try to put more complaints in. And there, you know, I don't believe that it's for naught, but I talked about not getting frustrated because God's timing is perfect. And as you can see, I need to take my own advice, but it is infuriating to me that people that have good hearts and good intentions and they feel like they're doing the right thing, that they are being treated not only so poorly, but what are you making these kids live in these mold infested dorms? And even if they didn't have mold, by the way, they're very outdated. They were built in the 90s by the people, the parishioners of World Harvest Church. Nobody was construction workers. They were just doing what they could to get these dorms up, which I believe they did it in about 6 weeks. Nothing was sealed properly. Nothing was done properly. It looks like a prison. The kids complain constantly about the smell and the mold and how gross it is and how everything leaks. And their stuff gets ruined. And some parts of the building are so cold that their water is literally freezing just sitting out on the counter. And then other areas are super hot. Okay, so there's just a ton of issues. But I'm going to now play this video. And like I said, most of you have probably already seen this, but we're going to talk about it just a little bit more.
Does he have an airplane? Would he take one? Let's just believe for that right now. Father, we thank you for this man and what you've got on him and in him. You did it. And Father, it's not right that he should have to fly around with drunks, vagabonds, people of ill repute on his way to bless the people of God. Give him an airplane and minute. Jesus. Well, you prayed it, now why don't you help pay for it? Oh, you got quiet. Now, where'd that go? You lost it. Get some money. Don't act like you're poor. You're not poor. None of you. None of you. Everybody gets something that will bless this man of God. It will go directly to him. Every penny. Directly.
Paula said, "What is it? What does it cost to go to Valor?" Paula, I actually have those figures, but I just for the sake of time, I didn't put those in tonight, and would have lost it anyway, and had to pull it back up. So, but I want to talk about this specifically. So, we have uncovered that there are all of these issues, not only with them not being very good stewards of money, but they're letting people go because they say they do not have enough money, but they have I think they have a lot less money coming in, but Rod and Joni and Ashton and Megan and Jay and some of these people, okay, that are making 6 and 7 figure paychecks, they're not taking any pay cuts. They're getting rid of these people that are making 12, 14 bucks an hour, okay? And he's praying for a plane for this guy. How about you take some of that money and actually reinvest it into the people that are keeping your ministry running or your cult running? They don't know it's a cult, maybe. But the irony of what he was saying about vagabonds and drunkards, I'm going to show you something else here in just a second. Valor students are literally sent out into the worst neighborhoods in Columbus and sort of all over the nation when they make these trips, okay? And they usually go with Deborah George. They go out into the worst areas where it's prostitutes, it's drug addicts, it's drunkards, it's what would be considered vagabonds, okay? And it's it's okay for these Valor students to be sent out to these areas so they can talk to people quickly about God and put a camera in their face and act like they've saved or helped people get saved, okay, in these areas. But Rod's rich friends cannot sit on an airplane with anybody. And when's the last time you saw super drunk people on an airplane? They don't even let them get on there anymore. But Rod is saying that people that are not rich like him, that do not have the spiritual covering like him, that all of these people are beneath him. And the hypocrisy, the classism, and elitism in the pulpit is just absolutely insane. But I want to show something really quickly, and then I'm going to get to Miss Z just 1 second. This is also something that I've had for a little while, and I'm going to try to make it big enough so you guys can see it. This is a waiver and release of liability that Valor students or their parents, if they are underage, must sign before they go out on these crusades in the worst parts of town. And I highlighted some things, and I'm going to actually post this too so you can read it. But the parts that I highlighted, it says, I acknowledge and fully understand that I or my minor child will be engaging in activities including transportation to and from in connection with VCC transportation excursion that involve risks of serious bodily injury, including permanent disability or death, risk of severe economic and social loss, and other risks either not known to me or not readily foreseeable at this time, which may result not only from my own or minor child's actions, inactions, or negligence, but also from action, inaction, or negligence of others, the condition of the premises, or the condition of any equipment used. I understand and agree that by signing this waiver release of liability, I am assuming full responsibility for all of the foregoing risk and accepting full personal responsibility for any losses, costs, or damages resulting from my or my minor child's participation in any activities in connection with VCC transport. It goes on to y'all, they say don't ever pray for patience, man. Let me bring this back up so I can read the rest of it for you. My patience has gotten a lot better, but uh, I'm ready to throw this laptop through the window right now. I understand and agree that by signing this waiver release of liability, I am agreeing to release, discharge, covenant not to sue, indemnify, and hold harmless World Harvest Church or Valor Christian College and its owners, directors, officers, agents, employees, and associated personnel from any and all liability claims, demands, losses, injuries, damages, or costs, including attorney fees associated with arising from my or my minor child's participation in any activities, including transportation to and from connection with the VCC transportation excursion, which participation I hereby authorize. I understand that this waiver release of liability will be binding on me, my spouse, my heirs, my personal representatives, my assigns, my children, and any guardian ad litem for said children. And then the last, it just says release of liability and be a complete and unconditional release of liability to the greatest extent allowed by the law. And then you sign it. So if I were a parent of a Valor student and I found out that my 18 or 19-year-old kid had to sign something like this, it would be immediate red flags. Now, I'm not slamming anyone here, but my point is that not only do they put that non-compete that I showed you guys and posted, the verbiage is equally as shocking, I believe, in these this waiver and release of liability as the non-compete, but maybe in a slightly different way. But um, they are excusing themselves from all liability from anything that may happen, but they just put these forms in front of these kids and say, we got to go out and do this, so sign it, and here's your new hire paperwork, just sign everything. And even I offered to go do new hire paperwork with these work study students, mainly so it would be correct, but also because I was going to tell them what the paperwork said. And if they still chose to sign it, then okay. But what doesn't, and again, I am not slamming 18, 19-year-olds. I have one, okay? I have an 18-year-old that's about to be 19 years old, and he would still consult me just like he did today when he was filling out applications. He would consult me on what I thought about him putting his signature on something, and certainly something that is saying you could die if while you were doing it. So Why is it okay to put these young people in these situations, Rodney, but you and your friends can't fly on an airplane because somebody might have a glass of champagne? It's absolutely insane. I want to show, if I don't get kicked off, and then I'm bringing Miss Z on, I promise. I had some more scriptures. I showed this one about greed. Luke 12:15, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Those 1 Timothy 6:9-10, those who want to get rich fall into a temptation and a trap, for the love of money is the root of all evil. Hebrews 13:5, keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have. And I'm going to just show a couple more, and then I'm going to bring Z on. And well, if I can click on the right thing, y'all. Nope. Okay, let's remove that and let's add this one. Scriptures about loving everyone, okay? Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. 1 Peter 2:12. Live such good lives among the pagans that they may see your good deeds. Lord have mercy. Okay. I'm just going to give you, I'm going to give, that's not the one I want. And I'm going to give just a couple more because I think these are, it's so important that we use scripture in the correct context. Colossians 4:5-6, be wise in the way you act towards outsiders. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt. And then 1 John 4:7-8. It's not lay, it's let us love one another, for love comes from God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. And I think some of these things don't get talked about enough. So now, without further ado, and Lord, y'all please say a prayer that we don't get kicked off again. I am bringing Miss Z to the stage, and she is going to share a little of her backstory, just so that you guys get a feel for her, her family, and her ministry. And then she's going to talk about also the plea to parents. So I am going to bring Miss Z to the stage now.
Hi.
Phil.
Hello. Good to be on.
Girl, I would be better if my internet didn't quit cutting out and I keep losing everything. I am posturing to just keep moving forward. So hopefully this does not continue to happen. But I gave you a little bit of an introduction, but I want you to just sort of I don't want to go too far in depth, but you have a student at Valor. I don't know if you've had a Okay, Z, I'm back. See, it already happened again.
Oh, we know why.
Yeah, go ahead and just start, and we're going to just keep praying that we don't lose any more connection. Sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties.
Hi. I'm going to start out by saying my stomach is in knots. And I don't come on happy that I'm here, but I am very concerned. And I have been silent for a very long time, and for a reason. First of all, just didn't have confidence uh, to kind of speak and be bold in the things that I knew and I know. And I think I have stood back and I have prayed, I have fasted, have listened to the advice of, I think, well-meaning Christians, but their advice has not really set well with me, because I feel like the reason the state of the church is in the state that it's in is because those of us that God has charged to speak have not spoken, and we have allowed fear of man to keep us from just simply sharing our truth. I don't know anyone that should argue with truth. And I think part of my frustration and sadness, like really, I just want to cry, because a lot of this stuff I just did not know. I only had my own experience, which was enough, should have been enough. And not only do I have a child in Valor now, but I had two others that had experiences with Valor as well as myself. I came to World Harvest Bible College in 1999 and have literally been back and forth, which is embarrassing, back and forth from 1999 to now, still, involved with the church. And I just want to say, I don't have the posture where I just want to hang Pastor Parsley, and I'm going to call him pastor because the gifts and callings are without repentance. So the issue is not that is the call, but it's what kind of a pastor. You know what I mean? And you may not agree, but I am sad because when my family first came, I only had one child. My husband and I were newly married. And just maybe 4 years prior, I used to be very suicidal, and I had a life-changing encounter that after I had experienced that encounter, the Lord made it very clear that I couldn't take my life and that I live for purpose and that my purpose was in him. And my encounter was so extreme that when I came out of that, there were a few things I was armed with. The Lord was able to show me that he had called me from my mother's womb, and that before a man, he would only agree with what God had already done. And so my encounter was so extreme that I kind of knew that, but it's still a process. So, but anyway, I was like, well, Lord, being called as a woman, I was not aware of a lot of places at that time where I felt like, I could go and it be a spirit-filled church and it be in a school where they actually felt women were called to ministry. And so when maybe later on we could go into that, but my parents actually had Pastor Parsley on, and while it was a powerful service, and I literally felt like the Lord was shooting me like a star right into I felt like I needed to be there and I needed to get there at all costs. And so I did come. But just long story short, I have experienced some hard things at the very beginning of my coming. But because of the insecurity and lack of just knowledge of systems, and just
Sure.
revelation of scripture, I just didn't know. And so I thought maybe the things that I experienced there was me, because I literally have always been very outspoken, and only now am I learning the maturity that goes with the voice that should accompany the voice. But anyway, even after experiencing the things that I did because of lack of confidence, I felt like I would never want to keep my family from maybe experiencing that level of God. Maybe it was, I was inconsistent or whatever. And so I kind of just blamed myself. But each child would have their own encounters. And after a while, you start, it makes you can get angry. And so first it started out lack of confidence, but then it started, I'm angry. And I could literally turn over tables, because when we encountered what we did in other churches, that was clearly not God, the witchcraft, the all of the things that we have encountered in a lot of prophetic ministries and a lot of, we encountered and we saw a lot of things. My husband and I always felt World Harvest is the one place, and this is probably going to sound a little crazy, but is the one place where you feel like you can sit at the table and you can eat and not feel like you have to bring that food back up, because it was not going to be nourishing for you, for your. And so this was always the place we loved him. And we loved how in other ministries we didn't see leadership calling things out. But initially when we came, we experienced him calling stuff out. If he felt like something on the front line, if it was off, you're in sexual sin, you're in this, you better make sure you get it together, because if I come back up here and this is still an issue, he would say, I'm going to call you out. And so there was a great respect that we had for that, but I just couldn't understand why every time I came, and my experiences were just ridiculous. So I'm just saying all this to say is that I have my own encounters. I have other children that have had encounters. And I've also, last time I was there in 2016, the Lord kind of had my husband and I as like, they used to call me Mama Z, but we were just like a safe place for a lot of the kids that came. And it's the class that I hear gets talked about a lot, that this was probably one of the worst classes. But in their defense, these kids were just not having it. They were calling the stuff out. Yeah. And a lot of times they didn't know how to do it. I've witnessed children turning over chairs in the financial aid office because people were playing around with their money. But when you advertise the financial aid, and a lot of these kids, they didn't have backing. They didn't have parents that were going to check on them, and parents, they were going to say, wait a minute, that's not right. And they didn't have parents that they could call and say, okay, well, should I be signing this? Or what is this? What is it? My children knew that you signed that release and you give me permission, because I've had my own encounters and I know how they move. So you signed that release and you give me permission, not because I just want to be a problem, but because I want to hold them accountable. And I want to make sure that my children who were coming in had never been to college before, any college, you see? And so they don't know how financial aid works. They don't know paperwork. They don't know, so it's the obligation of the parent. It doesn't mean that you're not allowing them to grow. You're still even teaching them, even while you're leading them in the first, you see? And so, but my experiences have always been, they're adults now. And so a lot of my experiences have left me feeling like that the parent was the major enemy. And you brought them here There must have been a reason you brought them here. Now that they're here, we're their covering. We're their everything. We're their prophet. We're their covering. We're their parent. We're their everything. And that has always been a problem. And I'm probably going to skip around because there's just really so much that I have held in, and I have, just tried to check myself, because I can be very protective. As a matter of fact, my family calls me helicopter mom with my kids.
Well, and we are going to do a full interview at some point, right?
Yeah.
So you, but when you do have the opportunity to actually start talking about some of these things, you do want to try to fit it all in. But I've got a quick question for you. I don't know how long you've been watching the podcast, but you spoke about Rodney calling out certain things from the pulpit, or calling out sexual sin and that sort of thing. How did you feel when you found out that that his own daughter, who he's putting in the pulpit, is running around with men, women, married men, doing drugs, drinking, and they have the nerve to call other people out, but he's not even taking care of his own home?
Well, I haven't known specifically those things,
Okay.
but because I had a child at Harvest Prep, I did know of some other things.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I was not pleased about it at all. But I think my concern is her leadership. When you start, and this is just from being out with the vagabonds and all of the whatever, he was
The
saying,
drunkards, and
drunkards,
the people of ill repute.
yeah, this is our heart though. And so,
Right.
even though we were told we had the little ministry that wasn't all that significant, when these children were kind of leaning on us for encouragement, they don't eat,
Right.
and a lot of those kids, they don't have money. And so anyway, we weren't, I pray I'm answering this right. We weren't bashing the ministry, but we also wanted to make sure that they were keeping their eyes on God, number one, and that when what God was showing them, they didn't play down, that they saw things for what it was, and they weren't scared to speak out about them. Yes, I have a problem with that, because that's a double standard.
Sure.
And a lot of but when we talk and we go back to 99, it'll go back to that too.
Yeah,
What
she
I'm
was
saying
just a
is
little
that
girl at that point. Yeah.
what I'm seeing is that there is a consistent line from all those years that I was there. I thought it was isolated to me, but what I'm finding out is it's a pattern. And it concerns me, because my heart, and no one would argue this, has been for this next generation. And what we're supposed to be doing is preparing them to take the baton and run further than we even ran. But how they run is even more important, that they run. And so I'm concerned with what I'm seeing, and I'm concerned about my child, because I know what we have instilled in my child. And I'm being very careful, because me coming on here is mom saying that the same way I raised you to speak up, not be diminished in your voice, be respectful. But God have given you a voice. Even in our house, we pay attention to our children. We don't think that just because they're children, God has not given them anything to say. The only thing we say is, you better be respectful when you bring it. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I am enraged, because not only just for these children, but the child in me that was reaching to this place for guidance, for help with this fivefold ministry call that all of my children walk in. So when they came seeing, might not have understood what they saw, but the parents are entrusting their children. And there are those of us that are doing our part. And so when we go to release our children to any school, and I specifically did not want them in secular school. I wanted them to come to a Christian school for foundation. But what I have found out is this is worse. This experience has been worse than if I had sent them where they could have gone. Because at least there they would have had respect for parents. You know, there are certain things that even before it's spiritual, it's like, you know, just respect. Some of these people are not very spiritual in those classes, but they've been taught manners, they've been taught certain things. And so I'm just outraged that a lot of the headaches that I have had, a lot of the tears that I have cried, a lot of the confusion has been in a place where we should be finding refuge. Now we speak about being wild horses and not having accountability, but what happens when you're trying to be accountable, but the accountability is worse than if you were out in the street, is worse than if you were in the world? And I am concerned. I don't say we're perfect. My husband and I will not say we are perfect. We have been processing as we've raised them. From my womb, the Lord told me who each of my children were. He named each of them according to their purposes. And so now it is our responsibility to make sure we put them in atmospheres and we put them in situations conducive of what God is trying to do. Now, do we fall short? Yes. But when we do fall short, what we don't do is blame other people for it. We take accountability and we get it right. And that is what every last one of our children have seen us do. If we have offended them in any way, if we have made a misstep, the one child, my children will say we moved so many times. That moving back and forth affected them. And so I feel like in a lot of ways, it leaves open door for the enemy to use that and trap them in situations that seem stable. But what I always say when that's brought up, I say, yeah, you can be dysfunctional in moving, but you can still be dysfunctional when you're still. There are a lot of people who have not moved from state to state and move, but are still very much dysfunctional, even more so. And so I believe that I contacted you.
You did. You did.
I appreciate you for what you are doing, because what you are doing is giving voice. You're giving clarity. You're allowing a platform for people to share, and it is not demonic. It is necessary, because this spirit of fear is keeping a cycle going that we are too late in the hour to be dealing with this. And no, it did not bring comfort for me to know, because one of the things that I was attacked, and my husband, we were called pimps, that we were pimping children from that school when we were loving those children. And the thing that hurts me is we were called that from doing ministry. And what I'll say,
real ministry, right? Actual ministry.
Because it was to all those people that we don't want to sit by on the plane. That's what Christ did. All the ones we're talking about, that's who he came for. And so those children that were a part, they were majorly blessed. And so what because I could go on and on, but basically the main thing that I am concerned about is that people like yourself from Ohio Freedom, first of all, this is not easy, because the attacks that come with this is ridiculous from people that should know better. They say they love God, but what about his people? How do you want to remain in peace while children's lives are being destroyed, families are being destroyed? And so the problem that I have is that I never see true repentance coming from any of the offices from Pastor Parsley himself. There have been many times that I have tried to get to Pastor Parsley and have been met. I have actually written letters because I did not want to inject what I thought about a thing. I just honestly wanted to hear, how is it that you feel like you're comfortable throwing shoes in basketball practices? My son played basketball for Harvest Prep. How are you so angry that you can throw a shoe and just miss my son? When we're supposed to be demonstrating the fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
What kind of examples? I was raised in a home where my dad, he was a coach. And when you get in any of those atmospheres with sports, you can be introduced to some coaches that have no fruit of the Spirit. You love that your child is able to play basketball, but the leadership that they are under is just not conducive. They're cursing, they're angry. And so, but you kind of can, that's in the world. They're not professing to be covering souls. They're not, and I'm not saying it makes it any better, but what I'm saying is he's in a position to cover these children, to be an example of these children. It not just be about trophies and winning. It shouldn't just be about, let me tell you when I'm most hurt is when I hear about we are not praying and fasting about any kind of things we're running to raise money or any kind of ministries we're trying to fund or whatever. When I hear that what we are doing is meeting with people who can study the demographics of the people who are giving, who can take that information and pick it apart and now come up with a strategy on how to get more money, that grieves me. And this is not what our children should be like. So I think part of my issue is there are a lot of pastors that have schools that are in this alliance. And some of them I respect a lot. Like, I mean, a lot.
You're talking about CHN?
Yes, but what I don't understand is if you know you experience things, if you know that it wasn't easy for you and all of the turmoil and the anxiety and all the things that you sat under and experienced and watched and was muzzled, how do you send? I don't want to say they're fragile because I believe this generation is stronger than we think. They know more than we think. I don't think a lot of times we give them credit for the things that they have to deal with in this time. But they're still children, a lot of them. And they're still, if we as adults couldn't figure it out, can we only imagine the minds of these children who are torn because they see you praising, worshiping, they see you shouting all over the sanctuary, they see you prophesying, they hear you talking about Smith Wigglesworth and the anointing and the authority. And, you know, you want that. You want authority over evil. You want to be able to make a difference in your communities. You want to be able to change your family situation. So a lot of us were coming because we wanted access to true power. But what we didn't realize is every good and perfect gift comes from above. And that anointing is available to us all. We don't have to worship a man and bow and turn our heads and our eyes, close our eyes to blatant sin. I'm not even talking about making a mistake. We all do that. But at some point, we should learn. At some point, there should be some conviction to say, this is not okay, not just for the child, but for our Father. We call him Abba. And so how do we keep breaking his heart? Because he cares about the very ones we walk over. But I do understand from my own experience how hard it is to speak.
Yeah.
You know, I understand, but my plea, because if I go on, I'm going to share a whole lot more. But I feel
Oh
like to
yeah,
kind
we're gonna have you on, Z. We're
to
gonna have you on.
well, I
But yeah,
feel
what
like
what is your plea, girl?
I
What is the
feel like
plea?
my plea is for those people that know, and I'm going to say this because I've had people that I respect. I've had instructors that I've reached out to because I said I need some help. Like maybe I just need some counseling, or maybe I need some help because people are telling me you're just a mom that's just not getting her way. Because my son was supposed to come home after graduation but chose to stay another 2 years, and that was tearing my heart apart because I knew I was just making it to the end of till graduation. I said, God, if you could just help me, because there were things that I knew were going on that my son was not sharing. And I said, God, just help me hold on until graduation. We're all the way in Texas. Our child is all the way in Ohio. And I know my son. My son is, when he went there, was bold as a lion. Didn't worry about no titles, nothing, would call it out, and did. And there was some pushback in a lot of ways initially. But I was there encouraging my child on a regular. They don't have to know who you are. They don't have to call your name. You don't have to be a part of the ones that they're laying hands on all the time. Only thing you need to do is keep your eyes on God and get whatever you're supposed to get. But even now, I'm saying get nothing. Not right now. Because I'm not sure that environment is, to me, polluted. And I will not hesitate in saying it. Because when you can hide sin, even if you didn't do it, if to know what to do and not to do it is plain sin. That's what James tells us.
Sure.
And all I can say, and all I know to say, is that if you can stand on that platform and you can preach on that platform and you can praise someone who blatantly is arrogant and very prideful, feels like he is untouchable, does not need to repent, does not need to apologize, I am really scared of that. And that is hard for me to say because a lot of the people that are gracing the platform, I even considered moving my family and placing underneath their ministries. Thought a lot. But it's a red flag to me when you can see plain evidence. You can see plain as evidence of failure to speak up, to correct, to do what you know to do. And I'm gonna tell you, the leadership, there have been so much that I have known about the homosexuality in those dorms, the spirit of perversion, the loss of life that I'm not so sure it was what I was told. And it is like, but how do you tape the windows shut because the kids are sneaking out? And a lot of times I would tell my husband, but we got to look at the head. We always talk about the oil flows from the head down. And a lot of times, if you want to know what's going on in the head, all you got to do is look at the body. So these children are coming here. Some of them are being sent and they don't even want to come. A lot of the kids that I encountered, they didn't want to come. They were made to come. And they were told that this is going to be better than where you think you want to go. But when they get there, they're devastated. And some of these children are not the same. I am watching diehards for that ministry that are so fixed on Rod Parsley that they are not paying attention to their children or their family member that has been ravished by lack of leadership and to be honest with you, the spirit of perversion that's in leadership. There's no other way for it to be playing out. And so I wanted to speak up about that and plead for parents to really check in. Yes, they're going to tell you these children are old now. They are old enough now, and we want to teach them to live on your own. But I want to challenge that, because a lot of these kids are not allowed to go to other ministries. A lot of these children are not allowed to participate in other ministries. They're being made to sign stuff, and they're not, and that is wrong. Jesus, the Lord, doesn't even do that to us. He gives us free will, but what he does do, he equips us with the truth if we want it. He has given us that Bible, and he has given us leaders that do have the heart of God, and people that stand proxy, that will give us truth. He has given us that. And from that, how they learn to navigate in this world as a kingdom citizen of heaven, how they learn is they use the truth to discern, okay, should I be sitting over here or should I not? I believe they're smart enough to do that if we arm them with the truth and if we lead with truth.
Yeah.
It can't just be something that we are warning them about other ministers. How about we just be that example? And they will probably decide, I don't need to go anywhere else. But a lot of them have had to, because they're so devastated where they've been, that they are seeking true leadership, accountability, and just a safe space where they can learn and not feel like they have to question the areas, the classrooms, so there's a whole lot I can say. But what I want to do is just plead with parents to really, challenge. Don't just drop them off and be like, oh, they got them. And leaders that have the churches and that are sending, from your congregation, know that we should know where we're sending them. And if we have had doubts, then maybe, we should think about it, because we're going to have to give an account. I've had to repent myself, but I just didn't know. I mean, I honestly, I've had people say, well, you sent them there, but I didn't know. And I wasn't confident in what I did know, what God did show me, because I thought, very insecure in who I was and how I was called. You see, so I just wanted to, first of all, be an example of sharing. I will lift my voice in what is true and what my truth has been. And what I would pray is that others do that, because there is a firewall of protection that God has around his children. I don't care what the devil wants to intimidate and throw, as long as you're in truth, and as long as the Lord knows your heart and your motives are pure, and you really want to see true justice and not just be seen, God will back every person that comes and shares, because at the end of the day, there are probably still more people abused. There are probably people like myself who have been delayed in calling and purpose, because people who were not truthfully walking in theirs projected onto you that, it's just a little ministry. You're just, you're, what is the word I hear? Offended, or.
Oh yeah, the spirit of offense.
It's not the spirit of offense. What this is there is right and there is wrong. And we can pray and fast all day long. But at some point while we're down there praying, we are going to have to use the voice God has given us. Am I saying use it in a way where we just want to get back at people or tear people down or accuse? Because I've been on the other side of that. I've been on the other side of being accused, and it was straight lies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I do understand, that, but I think this right here is so in our face that I really believe God wants to use us to speak up, and not somebody else's story, but just ours. Just as simple as that. That alone, if what I've experienced helps just one person, if our Father leaves the 99 for the one, then well done. At least that's one person
Absolutely.
that is not in bondage and free to walk out their purpose and tell their truth, because we overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And it's sad that this testimony has to be in this place, because I do know that it is time for a roar. The Lord's been dealing with me about this issue of roaring, and I thought it was something totally different. I thought it was a roar in the world, to the enemy. Let those people go. No, this roar is for the enemies in the church.
Yes.
We have got to speak. And I just want to just publicly, because I am just coming straight out of fear. I am not intimidated by titles, size of ministries. I have learned from my journey that means nothing if there's no true fruit. And I'm not saying that those that have, that there are not true pastors out there that have the heart of the people. But I feel like we need to speak up, and we have to stop being so muzzled and fearful and coward when it comes to other people's life. You may have made it out, but there's still children that are here that really are confused. Some of them
Absolutely.
are confused because they know what they see, but a lot of times they're like, but this is like a mother that I never had, or but I hear Pastor Parsley raise the dead, and there is a lot of fruit. Who can take away the things that God had him genuinely do? But one thing I always tell my children, I don't care if it's the Pope. The minute one stops operating in the Spirit of God, you are no longer obligated to follow. And what I see is wrong on all levels. On all levels. And it so I don't have anything else to say outside of I can just wait until I can share into more detail. But I am very concerned,
Yes.
and my heart is just that those that know better do better, because there are a lot more people. I'm not really sure. I think in a lot of cases, there were things that they did as well, or that they participated. And maybe to uncover those things would be to uncover them. But all I know is one day we are all going to have to give an account for how we lived our life, how we treated people. And I have been repenting a whole lot because, I've just been very angry, if I must say. And I know that not all that, we're not supposed to be operating in anger, but I have made sure that I took the time to where it's no longer anger, but what it is just my heart is grieved. Sure. When are we going to wake up and actually be the church? It is not okay to shout all over the church and yes, give God a praise and all of that. But when we come out of it, what about these things that still yet to be addressed? If these are lies, where's the voice saying, listen, this is wrong or this is wrong? But when you got the papers, I don't really know how that happens. I just feel like we should be repenting. I've done my share of it and I still am. I'm not saying I'm perfect. But what I'm not going to do is know I'm in error and continue in error. I have actually come and apologized for a lot of things I did not do just to keep peace. So that's how I know my heart is right, because I've come to the ministry and I have apologized for things that I didn't even do. But if it meant peace, if it meant because you're told your ministry, I have had my ministry cursed right there in the classroom. And nobody wants that. You want God to be pleased with everything that you do. But I just, for the life of me, do not understand how your mistakes and all these things can be pointed out, but when is your turn, there not be apology on your end. So that is just my heart.
Absolutely. Well, and I can't wait. I cannot wait for us to do a full interview. And I appreciate you so much for coming on and not only making the plea, but just speaking from your heart and speaking your truth. And because it's not easy to do, but I think it's important for us to do it, especially when there is so much at stake. And I just want to say, parents, you need to, and it's okay to protect your kids no matter what age they are. That students and others need to speak up, and supporters of World Harvest and Valor Christian College need to stop funding this abuse. And if anyone wants to reach out to me or share information, they need information for for an attorney, please email me at megamaniacs777@gmail.com. And before I share this last Bible verse, Miss Z, was there anything else that you wanted to share?
No,
No?
I've pretty
Okay.
much.
Hey, you were preaching, girl. You were preaching. Well, Isaiah 117, learn to do right, seek justice, and defend the oppressed. And thank you everyone for tuning in and battling through these internet issues that I've been having all evening. Continue to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. And I will see you next week for a new episode of Megamaniacs. Have a good night.